and welcome to the Unbotchable podcast. My name is Bryant Niles, and today we have a very exciting episode. It's the most excited I've been for an episode since I've started doing this podcast. We're going to do the weekly roundup for this week's episodes from Raw to SmackDown, but in addition to that, we're going to have a breakdown of the recent ISPW show from Friday, June 2nd in Butler, New Jersey. I love this company. I love the show. It was a great time. So we're just going to jump right into it. To open the show, we had Justin Carino, Michael Mars facing off against SCK. You know, when you look at matches that open shows, there's a few things that you want. You want excitement, you want speed, you want fan engagement. You have all those three things, then you're doing something good for the rest of the show. It makes the crowd better for the rest of the show. We saw examples of that last week in those big pay-per-views with Double or Nothing. You look at the opening match, it was okay, but then it kind of stalled out the rest of the show. So when you have a match like this to open the show, it was high flying. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of fan engagement. The fans were involved. They were yelling and chanting and cheering and everything you need to do to have an exciting opening match for a show. So I had a great time watching that match. SCK came away with the win. The great team, really talented. Carino and Mars are obviously talented in their own right, and that should not be taken away from them. I think both teams were fantastic. Something that I was really excited to see during the show was the tag team matches. Sometimes when you have independent shows, you don't always get top tier tag team matches sometimes. Sometimes they're very classic, I guess you could say, like heel and face action. This had the classic heel work, but I think the dynamic between the two teams made it so that the classic heel work, it worked because of how SCK was not a classic face team, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was a great match. Props to all of them involved. A great way to open the show. It was a great time during that match. And then we went on to match 2 of the night, which was originally slated as Mr. Joe Clean taking out Eric Corbus, who both, by the way, have great presentations. I love that. And then it was later found out by the man himself that Anthony was going to be added to this match to make it a triple threat match. It was a very interesting match because, during the entrances, the crowd was very over for Joe Clean. They loved him. They loved the brooms. They were cheering nonstop. Obviously, Corbus was the heel, so that stayed the same. But then, you had Anthony, and the crowd just rallied around him. They put all their eggs in the Anthony basket, took him out of the Mr. Clean basket, put him into the Anthony basket. Anthony ends up getting the win. It was a great match. Triple threat matches, especially like in any form of wrestling, are one of the more exciting match types, and also one of the least seen. You don't really see triple threat matches that often during, your normal shows, especially on even bigger shows. You don't really see triple threat matches that often. So, having a triple threat match was something I was excited for, just the fact that we're having one. Then you have 3 talents that were all over in their own way during the match. It made it even more exciting than what you can originally think. Mr. Joe Clean, he did fantastic. Nothing I can say negative. Loved every second. His moves are great. Presentation's great. Corbus, same thing. He's great interacting with the crowd. Great moves, great aura. Everything about him I liked as well. Anthony, he just has that like that 1, 2, 3 kid kind of vibe, like that underdog that you just want to see win, gets the win over uh, two skilled competitors. It was a really great match. Hopefully, this means more for Anthony moving forward. He's a great kid. He did great. I was really impressed with the whole match. So that was a great second match of the night. Ramp up the crowd even more. Get things going. Add some drama and change, and you never know what's going to happen element to it. So that was a great match number 2 to lead us into the first title defense of the night. Vicious Vicky versus Tina San Antonio for the ISPW women's title. This was a very exciting match. I was very excited that it was turned into a championship match. Not that it was anything against the tag team match. But, a Vicious Vicky title defense, nothing wrong with that. It's always exciting whenever she has a title defense. So I was excited to get the title defense. It started with a beatdown by Tina on Vicious Vicky, which lasted a majority of the match. And then it ends with Vicky retaining. It was a great outcome, great match. Vicky, she had control of the crowd from the second she walked through the curtain. And I like this ending with Vicky retaining. It leads to a lot more you can do in the future, which is what I'm all about. I'm all about where you can go from here when you have a match. That's why I like Anthony winning in the last match, because there's a lot of places you can go with Anthony winning. There's a lot of places you can go with this feud with Vicky retaining and moving down the line. So I thought it was a great match. Great first title match of the night. It was very impressive watching that. And hopefully we can see more of that in the future too. Now the next match was the second title match of the night. In my opinion, it was the match of the night. A show stealer in every way. For the Tri-State Championship, it was GKM versus Leo Sparrow. It was probably one of the best matches I've seen in person, which I don't have that much of in-person wrestling experience. I've been to a few shows. I've been to one WWE show. Saying that this is the best match I've seen, considering I went to a WWE show with Roman Reigns during this run right now, actually having a match on a non-pay-per-view show. That's saying something. That's saying it was impressive stuff, and it was. It was very fast-paced, which I always enjoy. I like fast-paced stuff. I like getting into the deep water, and that's what this match had. It was non-stop action the whole time. The storytelling between the former tag team partners, you saw they wanted to compete, but they wanted to remain friends, and you saw that throughout the match. GKM ultimately retained, but it was an absolute great, classic match from what I've seen so far. I loved every second of it. It's one of those matches where you watch it, you can't really look away because you're just enamored by what's happening. It doesn't happen to me often. It happens during, those big matches where you feel something important is happening right now. And I need to watch this because I need to know what's going to happen, who's going to win, and what's going to happen moving forward. And this match was exactly that. I don't want to say I was blown away, because obviously they're both great competitors, but I was very, very, very impressed. I think I said it in a tweet or something. I said, they had magic that last night, and that's what they had. It was a magical performance. I wouldn't mind a rematch, honestly. Anything. It was a great match. I keep saying it was a great match because it was just so impressive. I don't know how to describe what we saw. But it was athletic. It was suspenseful. There was a lot of pinning combinations. It was the match of the night. I was blown away. Great job, you two. And that was that match. Hard to top. But then they come out with Tommy Dreamer versus Ray Calitre. It was a great match. Obviously, a Tommy Dreamer match for an independent show is always a draw. Calitre is nothing to scoff at either. He's a great talent. And you can tell he's a great talent because he won the match. He had a great finish, might I add. It was a great finish to the match. He raked the eyes. The ref was yelling at him for that. Didn't see where Tommy Dreamer was positioned behind him. And then Calitre hits him with a low blow. Wins the match. Probably the biggest upset of the night. It was a great match though. It had a great pace, which is always what you're looking for. You want a pace. Every match has their own pace. The Tommy Dreamer matches have a slower pace compared to, Leo Sparrow and GKM. That was a quicker paced match. It had a great pace for what it was. A great interaction from the fans. Everyone was giving chops and doing all that, and the fans were chanting and cheering, and the finish. Everyone it was a shock. There was the air was sucked out of the room. It was a great match. Didn't have the expected result, but to be honest, it's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for matches that can give you a little bit of a shock, which I'll go into a little bit later when we do the weekly roundup about one of the matches that I thought had the opportunity to be one of those kind of unexpected wins or losses, depending on who you're looking at. But, Tommy Dreamer put no one through a table. It was close. We were inches away from getting someone through a table, but it was a great time nonetheless. Tommy Dreamer using Mr. Clean's brooms as weapons and taking canes and doing spit takes and all that kind of stuff. So obviously it's Tommy Dreamer. It was a great match. Congrats to both of them on doing it. But that leads us into a Bull James Maven segment. For those of you that do not know, Bull James was the former ISPW heavyweight champion, which now belongs to Rick Recon, who is in the main event, who we'll talk about later. It was a few notes from that. Maven, a true professional. He was one of the few people that they had the microphone, they controlled the whole thing. They controlled the fans, got them to do what they want, which is what you're looking for, especially in a manager type character. You want crowd control. You want them to be able to cheer on command, boo on command. Boo when you want them to be quiet. That kind of heat. That's what you're looking for. That's what Maven had last night. Bull James, he came out, gave his promo that he doesn't want the ISPW Heavyweight Championship right now. When he wants it, he will get it, and he will get his chance. Ended with a match against a, quote, Rick Recon, quote, which was, a joke, a mockery of the real Rick Recon. Obviously Bull James disposed of him very, 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 very quickly, which ultimately will lead us into the main event with the real Rick Recon taking on the Legend Crowbar for the ISPW Heavyweight Championship. Bull James and Maven remained at ringside. It was a great match. Crowbar, was doing the things he's able to do, jumping over the rope. He's very, very talented. There's a lot of things that he was doing that some a lot younger talent might not have been able to do athletically. So I was very impressed, as per usual, with Crowbar. Recon, he has star written all over him. Now, there's not really another. Well, obviously, this whole card is filled with stars and potential superstars. He's one that if you just looked at him, you lined up like 10 different wrestlers and you said, which one of these guys is going to be a superstar? You look and you point right at Rick Recon because that's what he is. He's an absolute superstar in the making. Very excited for him. This match may not have ended in the way that a first time title defense you would like it to be defended for him. The match ends with Bull James more or less picking his opponent for when he rechallenges for the ISPW title. He puts Recon through Crowbar's door that he brought out, stacks him on top of Crowbar to get the win, leading to obviously a Bull James Rick Recon rematch down the line. And it was a great match. It was very exciting. You had Dave LaGreca out there managing. He throws a punch at Maven, which obviously the crowd loved. You had Bull James always sitting at ringside, so you just never knew what was going to happen. It was a very entertaining match. Great main event. Great show, might I add. I was impressed with the whole show. I loved the production. I loved the aura in the room. The crowd was energetic. The action was fast paced and always something new going on. The show started at I believe 7:30, but it went by in a flash. It was like an hour went by and all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock and we're leaving. It was a very quick show, very great show. Wish I could have met more people. Money is an issue, but it was a great time. A lot of great people. They were all so nice. I can't recommend ISPW enough. I'm wearing their shirt right now as I'm doing this. It was a great time, great show. I don't usually, I guess, promote things. There's always things that I like that I'll talk about. This is probably one of the, if not the highest thing that I love the most is ISPW. I'm very, very, very high on it. I'm going to get to that a little bit later on some more ISPW stuff. But for right now, I want to start the weekly roundup. Get through that. See what we can talk about. So we're going to start with the Monday Night Raw for this week. Starting with Money in the Bank. Nakamura, Ricochet qualify. Obviously, that's kind of what we expected. You would like to see Bronson Reed, but I think Shinsuke Nakamura is the right choice. And Ricochet, you need someone to jump off ladders and stuff. So, with Braun Strowman getting a neck fusion surgery, which is, it's awful. It seems to be going around. Bobby Roode, Randy Orton, always getting these fusion surgeries on their spine. Now Braun Strowman, out for the year, pretty much. So that was that. Rollins World Title reign is going to be one of the best of all time, in my opinion. Already announced from last night on SmackDown. It's going to be Damian Priest, Seth Rollins for the World Title on Monday, which is ever since Roman took both titles, it's very rare that you get World Title matches on any show, let alone weekly shows. Normally you barely even get them on pay-per-views. Like every 2 or 3 you get one match for a World Title. So it's going to be a great match. You have the Trish Stratus, Zoe Stark combination. They did great on their first, I guess, actual interaction in front of the fans. You know, actually talking and It was actually kind of surprising that that went over so well. Not that I didn't think it was going to go over well for how they would interact, but when you have a new talent like that and a veteran, you always don't know if it's going to click, like visually when you look at it, if you believe it, and how they interact, their chemistry. But they had great chemistry, so obviously it's going to do great going into the summer, whatever plans they have. Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler are tag champs. Not what I would have gone with. I would have gone with Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. I just think they have a lot more overall charisma that they can bring to the titles, which they need. They need champions that are very outgoing and can draw eyes and force people to enjoy it. I don't think Ronda and Shayna, even with how talented they are, I don't think they move the needle in that sense. I think people will watch, but I think more people will be happy when they lose rather than not care about the result as long as they have a good match. A team like even with the men's titles with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, if you put them against like Alpha Academy right now and had them have a championship match, the fans would be so excited that whoever wins, they'd be happy because they know they're getting a great match. They know they're going to get great champions. But with Ronda and Shayna, the fans already don't like them. Not even just as heels, they don't like them as like in-ring performers. They don't like they feel Ronda's limited, right? So you can team them, like have them have a match against anyone, and they'll be the face team. Like their opponents will be the face team, even if they're heels. Which is maybe what they're going with Chelsea Green and Sonya. Maybe they want them to be more faces and having them take the titles off Ronda and Shayna will do it. I don't know. They just weren't my top choice for winning it. And, the tag team championships on the women's side have been struggling for a while. It's something I hate to see because, I think women's wrestling is very important, especially in the new world, the new wrestling world that we're in and everything. So I feel like you want to do all that you can to put the best product and I guess build a culture around women's wrestling that people will be excited to watch. And I feel like when I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at everything, a majority of people are not excited for Ronda Rousey matches. I mean, Shayna, I feel like by association is in that same boat. I feel like people are thinking, oh, it's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, so they both must be the same limited, have been wrestling for only a few years kind of thing. But I think it has potential of being a long tag team run, which maybe is what they're going for. Hopefully it all works out for both Ronda. This could be a great chance for a career resurgence for her, which I think would be great. When Ronda first started, she was doing fantastic. But then, the luster kind of wore off a little bit, and people started to say, she's not, innovating. She's not getting better as time goes on. She's staying the same. So hopefully, she's had some time off. This allows her to come up with new moves, get some extra practice in the ring. Maybe the tag team environment will do her a lot of good. So that's what I'll say about the tag team championship match. Cody versus Brock 3 is going to come. Probably at Money in the Bank. Hopefully it has a stipulation this time. Who knows? Okay, now I'm going to go to NXT, which is what I was talking about with that unexpected winner thing from before during the ISPW show. The main event was Noam Dar versus Carmelo Hayes. You know, I'm watching the match and I was thinking, this would be a great chance to give the title to Noam Dar, just for the pure shock of having Melo win a few nights before, retaining against Braun Breaker, comes out and loses to Noam Dar, loses the championship. Because I feel like that's what NXT needs. NXT needs more eyes. NXT needs some more surprises. Which this show had tons of surprises, but not the surprises you would expect on a show like this. You would expect, out of the box crazy things that you would never expect. You would having Dragon Lee on NXT was a big step in the right direction, bringing in new talent from around the world to come in, show what they can do, bring their style. I feel that would have been a great chance to get Noam Dar, give him the championship, and let him, do what he does. He's a great in-ring performer. I think it would have been a great opportunity. I didn't think it was going to happen, obviously, because Carmelo Hayes is probably just as good, if not better. But, if he's ready for the main roster, I wouldn't see there would be a day that it might be a random NXT championship match on a random Tuesday in August or something, and he loses. And then that's it. He's main roster bound. And this show on Tuesday started with Gigi Dolan versus JCJ in a steel cage match, weaponized steel cage match. I thought that was a great match. I've been very high in this feud since it started. I thought it would have been great to have Mandy Rose back in it somehow, but obviously that's not going to happen, at least for now. Maybe one day. But I thought it was a great match. They both did great. When you look at matches where they announce it and you're excited for it, for like that week leading up to it, which is what I was. It was probably one of the most exciting matches I was looking forward to during this week. I didn't know if it was going to hit all my expectations, and it did exactly that and more. It was a great match. I was very, very impressed by both parties. The weaponized portion of the match didn't feel forced. I just thought it was overall great. The presentation was great. It was all great. Now, there were some surprises, as I said. There were 3 main surprises. You have Mustafa Ali showing up to help out Tyler Bate and Wesley fend off attacks. You have at the end of the show Baron Corbin attacking Carmelo Hayes, leading to what we can assume will be an NXT Championship match at some point. And then the big surprise was the mysterious women's locker room attacker being Blair Davenport. I've been waiting for Blair Davenport to come back and come stateside. So obviously I was very excited it was her. I think she's going to do great. She has a bunch of stories lined up now since she was the attacker, quote unquote, of all these great women's performers. Sol Ruka and Wendy Chu and going down the list. So it's a very exciting time for her, especially because she can have match after match after match after match and always have a story going. Last thing is there's a number 1 contender battle royale next week for the women's championship, number 1 contender spot. I think that's going to be great. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know who should win. There's tons of great options. Either way, it's going to be a great match, against Tiffany Stratton. Looking forward to it. Now we move on to AEW Dynamite, which was the last live show that I watched of the week. My biggest thing from this show was I feel like the pillars were being misused a little bit. You know, you have a big championship match, you know, a lot of momentum on the single side going towards it. And you had Hook and Jungle Boy, Jack Perry in a tag team match. No, it wasn't a tag team match. They were just working together. Darby and Orange Cassidy, they had a tag team match. And there was no Sammy Guevara at all. So, and obviously MJF, but I don't worry about him because he's the champion, so you don't need to showcase him all the time. But, you know, the only thing I can say about that is that I hope that, you know, Orange Cassidy is facing Swerve next week for the International Championship. I hope that it might lead to a Darby Allin heel turn to go after the championship. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But I think that would be great for him. And I would help him capitalize on his success from the pay-per-view, which is always important, what you're looking for. You want success after a big match like that to lead you into big stories and big feuds. So, you know, I'm really hoping they all four, or three, because MJF's champion. So I hope all three of the other pillars take big steps this summer to capitalize on that momentum and fanfare that they had for that main event match and lead it into bigger and better things going forward. You know, Chris Statlander, she had her first title defense for the TBS title against Nyla Rose. Great match. She's probably going to maybe even pass Jade Cargill's run. That's how good she is. So I'm very excited for her run to get going. A lot of title matches, a lot of great matches on top of that. Hangman Page says that Kenny Omega is out of the country but not in Canada, which can only make one assume he's in Japan, bringing reinforcements for this Blackpool Combat Club problem. That's exciting stuff. You would think it would be Ibushi and maybe Okada. Who else? I don't know. Maybe just two, maybe just one. Maybe a whole club. But the big news of the night, Tony Khan announcing CM Punk will be at AEW Collision. He will be a centerpiece of the show. Obviously, there's mixed reviews to what this means. I think that it's a great decision for both the company and for CM Punk. I know he's probably the biggest money draw maybe in the sport. Like, a lot of people will tune into shows, will go to shows, will listen to anything that has CM Punk's name attached to it. So I think that they're capitalizing on that, and Collision might even end up being more popular than Dynamite just due to that fact, because people want to see CM Punk, they want to see what he says, they want to see what he does, they want to see if he has a match, like all the hype around him. So obviously I think it's a win-win for both parties. Punk gets back into wrestling, AEW makes a boatload of money. You know, can't go wrong with money and getting in the ring. So I think it's great for both of them. Hopefully maybe it'll lead to a sort of Survivor Series thing, like how WWE used to do a little while ago, where it was, you know, brand versus brand. I feel like that would be a great opportunity for them to, I guess, build their own Forbidden Door just to tear it down. So hopefully that would be something they consider. You know, we still don't know if they're doing a draft or like a brand split, or if they're just like winging it and just throwing people places and seeing what sticks. You know, CM Punk Collision, we kind of knew it already. And there was some doubt for about a month. He's doing it, he's not going to do it, he's doing it, he's not going to do it. He ends up doing it. I always thought he was going to end up being there. So, we'll see how that goes on June 17th. And for SmackDown, which I didn't get to watch until earlier today, because that's the ISPW show, you have the build-up to what is ultimately probably going to be Jimmy and Jey Uso versus Solo and Roman, which will probably headline Money in the Bank. Unless they decide to go Jimmy versus Roman, since Roman hasn't had a title defense for the last 2 pay-per-views. So, it's about time he had another one. So hopefully it's either one of those two. I'd probably prefer Jimmy versus Roman, because I feel like there's a lot more you can tell story-wise with, Jay on the outside. He wants to support his brother, but he wants to support Roman, and he wants to, find that fine line of cheering and booing and being happy and being upset. Solo going through and trying to see if he made the right choice sticking with Roman, which ultimately I think it'll lead to Solo dethroning Roman Reigns down the line. But, as for now, seeing which way he decides to lean during all this is going to be one of the more intriguing storylines going forward, because no one really, he's a very quiet character, he's very stoic, so it's hard to determine, through facial expressions and everything, which way he might be leaning. So I think that's going to be a big storyline to watch heading into maybe SummerSlam and beyond. Selena Vega, LA Knight qualify for Money in the Bank. Obviously, that's what we were hoping for. That's what we got. I was very excited about that. LA Knight is my pick to win the men's match. I want Io Sky to win the women's match, assuming, she qualifies. But obviously, that we're going to go into that more when it gets closer to the event. But that's just what I have for now. The OC having another match. Anderson and Gallows against Hit Row. It's just great to see them all back. They were there for a while after Survivor Series, leading into the Royal Rumble. And then, AJ gets hurt. We don't see him for months until after WrestleMania. They're back now. It's great to see them. They're going to do a lot of great things this summer, whether it be with the Bloodline, whether it be with some other newly formed faction or growing faction or whatever they do. So I'd keep an eye on them for some very big moves. And from the NXT call-ups that we had this past year, Pretty Deadly and Grayson Waller have been spectacular. Pretty Deadly, I think they just overperform what they even did in NXT. Almost every show, I was always impressed with them. They just seem to have stepped it up another level since they've gotten to the main roster. Over the moon about them. And Grayson Waller hasn't had a match yet, I think. He's had 2 Grayson Waller effects. This one with Asuka. He's just charismatic. Obviously he's great in the ring, but he hasn't really shown that much on SmackDown. But he's great. Pretty much everything he does. He's going to be a cornerstone of SmackDown. Probably by SummerSlam, he's going to be one of the most over acts on the roster, along with LA Knight. I'm very excited to see what the future holds for him as well. So, that just about does it for this episode of the Unbotchable podcast. Thank you for listening, and a big thank you to ISPW for having a great show last night. It was a great time. A lot of great people. I was so excited to be there. Make sure you follow them at ISPW Wrestling, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Their next show will be on June 10th, starting at 5 p.m. in Totowa, New Jersey. For Totowa Day, it will be free. We have the Dominican Destroyer Vargas facing ISPW Heavyweight Champion Rick Recon for the title. Be sure to check it out. Head on over. Tell them I sent you. Gonna be a great show over there. They always put on great shows. But as for this show, that's all we have. Make sure you follow us at Unbotchable on Twitter and Instagram at Unbotchable, at Bryant Niles on Facebook. Let me know what you think about this week's episode. And as always, stay off the top rope.